Hey everybody, this is Perch. People are chipping in or chiming in, naming the era of comics. And we had somebody call in saying the Gilded Age. They didn't call in at all, actually. They just said, why am I talking like this? I don't know. I'm just like a couple more drinks away from, like, I'll start one of these videos like, 10th caller is going to win a free copy of Deadpool. And then they were going to run this contest. And if you can guess the comic that I'm reading right now by listening to me flipping the pages, then you could win a trip to the New York City Comic Con. That's right. 10th caller. Let's see what we've got. And now let's play that fucking Sunroof song that they keep putting on the radio over and over and over and over again. Right. By the way, it's that First Class song. God damn it, I hate that song. And I don't know what it is. Anyway. Doja Cat. Fuck Doja Cat. All right. So anyway, this mail is giving us something new, not the Gilded Age. That's a fun thing about this show is we take just dramatic left turns out of nowhere to topics that nobody gives a shit about. So, representation era comics. Okay. I think this mail is going to dub it the representation era. But let's get to the meat of the mail. It says, "Hey Perch, big fan of your stuff. I appreciate the sanity you bring to the table. Well, how do you feel about that now?" After this entry, I was just watching one of your videos talking about marketing based on representation has become shorthand for we didn't think too hard about the story on this one, as fair or unfair as that may be. I was wondering about your thoughts on this. People today talk about the 90s as an era focused on being edgy and extreme, which is often considered cringy 20 to 30 years later. It absolutely is, except in the instances where the storytelling was high quality. Let me pause the mail here for a minute because it's absolutely true. So a lot of people who defend the 90s, they always point to the great things in the 90s. You point to, the initial Image books that were really kind of new and revolutionary at the time. You point to Age of Apocalypse. You point to various storylines, things they did with the Ghost Rider, things that went on there. They don't point to like that shitty, weird skateboard costume that Daredevil had for a while, or they don't point to Sue Storm's boob window. Well, maybe some of you do. I don't know, but they don't point to the dumb shit. Like I never see anybody in here going, "God damn it, the '90s were amazing." There's this point where Hercules looked like a shoulder pad soldier and with a ponytail, and so did the Black Knight and everybody else. They all had kind of the same costume, and all the Avengers had brown leather jackets, and the Wasp grew antennae and was a wasp, and the Enchantress had legs that were like 18 feet long. Like nobody brings up that shit. They bring up the good shit. But anyway, so a lot of the '90s stuff is cringe as hell. Absolutely, if you go back and you look at it, it's not good. Now, there's plenty of great stuff in the '90s, and I would take that great stuff in a heartbeat right now. If they could just bring it right back, the great stuff in the '90s somehow, we start publishing it. Happy days. I'll take it right now. But I'm not going to take kind of some of the tail end of some of these series that were like way past their expiration date and just kept going. Anyway, back to the mail. I feel like in 20 to 30 years, even if comics have completely changed, the storytelling from the last decade will be considered what I've come to call the representation era of comics. I think that's fair. I like the Gilded Age. I like this as well. Now, what the interesting part about the representation era is that it plays very well into the current time period where half the people will look at that going, wow, what an amazing era, representation, awesome. And the other half will look at it and go, yeah, that's code for shit. It plays really nicely where, two groups of people can read the exact same words and take completely different views of what's going on. Anyway, that said, I'm curious what stories from 2015-ish onward will be considered good, or at least decent comparatively 10 years from now. Interesting. When the novelty wears off, just like the spikes and the leather did to some extent. Thank you for contributing to the cleanliness of my home by giving me something to listen to while cleaning. The volume of content is appreciated. Oh, thank you. I'm always amazed at the things people do while they listen to the show. I've got a mail. The guy asked me not to read it. I'm not sure why. I didn't identify him. But he said that one of the things that he's a dentist and he does cavity fillings and kind of minor oral surgery. while listening to this show. And huh, okay, I, I sounds kind of frightening to me, but all right. Uh, so I think what stories will be good from 2015 on. I think there's indie stuff that will definitely be good in there. I do think, despite everything that happened, I think people will look at the kind of first half of Saga before the break, and it will generally, I think, age well. I know it's hit or miss with people, but I think you'll be able to look at that and go, oh, there's some good storytelling there. I think that there's been a handful of some of the stuff in Rebirth. I think will definitely age well. 2015 is kind of a weird line to draw because Marvel, you had Secret Wars ending, and then you had a just a mess. Marvel was a complete and absolute mess. If you think about between Secret War, the Hickman one, and the Secret Empire, the Cap is a Nazi, which also included Civil War II by Brian Michael Bendis. Like that whole run of Marvel was pretty fucking terrible. I mean that's not a good arc of comics. Like I don't know, even today, like now very few people look at that and go, hot damn, that was pretty good. I do believe that the House of X Powers of 10 will age well, particularly because, 20, 30 years from now, people have forgotten the shit that followed it. And they'll look at just those 12 issues as being pretty interesting, pretty revolutionary. I do think that will happen. I think that Zdarsky's Daredevil run will be remembered fondly. I think that's going to be one that probably has a pretty good feel to it. I think that I'm trying to think of pop culture. There's stuff I like that I know several of the rest of you don't. I'm going to like what Jeff Thorne did with Green Lantern. I really will. I know you guys are groaning right now. Several of you do not like that run. That one won't age. In 20 years, it's not going to be considered a classic, but I enjoyed it. So, I'm just being fair here. Um, I think indies is what's really going to be remembered. I think the representation era, if that's what it's called, is going to be remembered for a lot of these kind of limited runs, a lot of these things. Stuff like Kill Lock is a comic I enjoyed as well. I think kind of like Green Lantern. I don't think it's going to get remembered, but I think it was a good title. I think that I think Walking Dead kind of ended with a whimper during that time period. I think there's titles, but I think the titles that are going to age well, the ones that right now, if you sat down and you said, okay, 2015 on, and you really, really thought about it, I think that it would become pretty clear. I do think that White Knight, that first series, is going to age quite well. I know he's done the sequels and everything else, but I think that first one is going to age well. I think the things that if you look at it now and you go, these are classics, you will be able to look at 10 years from now and they're still going to be classics, and 20 years from now, those are going to be the ones people remember. The thing I don't think that will happen is I don't think that there's going to be this reveal of, that there's these mystery titles that none of us are thinking about now that 20 years from now are going to be these hidden gems that are going to surface. I think the stuff that we think is good today is the stuff that we're going to like later. That's just my feel. The one exception to that is I think some of Philip Kennedy Johnson's work is getting buried under a lot of kind of nonsense. And when I think they put it out in trade, The Last God, some of these, I think it's going to. My suspicion is that's going to have a second life in title, somewhat like how Invincible, the trades, and when people got to read it all at once, performed much better than the floppies. I think there's going to be some stuff like that will kind of come out. I think there will be some omnibuses that surprise people in how good they are. I think Daredevil, quite frankly, will fall into that category of a title. But I mean, the big stuff, I don't think there's kind of a hidden run in Spider-Man that's going to do it. Already talked about the X-Men. The Avengers has had kind of a rough time ever since Hickman's kind of Time Runs Out series. I think, over on Batman, you're talking about the Tom King run. You're talking about the thing about James Tynion is I think those comics sold well, did well, but it's almost like pop culture books. And this isn't meant to be an insult, but they're books that are going to sell well in the moment, but probably are not going to be remembered long term as classics. And that's not a knock against Tynion at all. I think The Last House on the Lake might wind up doing pretty well, later on. But anyway, those are kind of my thoughts. What are yours? So I'll send the question back to all of you. What are the comics from the representation era, or 2015 to today, that you think are going to be remembered fondly? They're going to be the big hits. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.